You know, a good reminder from Genesis chapter 1, verse 3 is God always pierces the darkness, always. And the darkness doesn't last.
And the high priest, the great high priest who is Jesus Christ, he puts his hands on your life and you take your hands off and you say, my life is surrendered for your purposes.
Going to welcome you back to another episode of the Downline podcast. My name is Jamie. I have the privilege of hosting this for Downline Ministries. We hope this podcast helps you faithfully walk with Jesus while pouring your life into others. And we're joined again this season, like last season, by Brett McCracken. Brett, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely. So author, writer, I've read a ton of your stuff on the Gospel Coalition, which has been super helpful for me. I always read your list of music and your list of movies. I mean, a lot of your stuff on culture, but like end of the year stuff is always a ton of fun. You helped me find Forrest Frank, who has permeated my entire family's life.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that it was my introduction because he's ubiquitous right now. I mean,
Yeah.
all the kids are into Forrest Frank.
Yeah, you cannot ever underestimate just how unplugged I actually am. I mean, my kids make so much fun of me, but that's their life.
It's not a bad thing to be.
Yeah, right. Well, that's their. Yeah, I just did a recording with Todd Corpy, who's an author who wrote a book called AI Goes to Church, and I'm like, man, I've got a tons of opinions on this. I really have no idea what's happening in AI. I'm so unplugged. So he was helpful, bringing me up to speed.
You probably sleep better at night not knowing about what's going on with AI.
Oh, that's probably true. Yeah. I listened to what Rogan said about it and I was like, I can't handle this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's intense.
Okay. So you lay out, your music, movies. I love your list of movies. Before we get to the actual list, because look, even as we're discipling people in our own Christian life, what we put in, Jesus makes this point pretty clear. Like what goes into our minds and our souls really matters.
Yeah.
And so before we get to the ins and outs and the more fun stuff, how do you process? I mean, you kind of get, I guess, the role of a lot of it's research for you, right? You kind of watch or get to watch lots of things. But like I've got a choice in everything I watch. I can watch it or not. I don't need to research it. I don't need to. So help me or our listeners, what's a grid of how to process? Man, is this even appropriate for my spiritual walk to watch this stuff?
Yeah, it's a really great question, important question. I've been writing like film reviews and I've been like a journalist in the arts and culture space for my whole career. Yeah. So it's a question that I'm always thinking through, how do I balance my Christian discipleship and wanting to become, more like Jesus, more holy, with this task of navigating a pop culture landscape, which, to be honest, is more often than not malformative. I would say it's so much in the movies, music, TV landscape is full of just untrue narratives and imagery that's not edifying and ideas 100%. That are not helpful. So I approach it with fear and trembling because I know from experience in my early career when I was a less discerning 20-something writing about pop culture, I just saw how you could, as a Christian, you could err on the side of being indiscriminate with what you watched and what you listened to, and just kind of like having a free-for-all mindset of like, I'm not affected by anything. I'm just going to like consume this HBO show and this, explicit, rap album or whatever. So I've grown, I would say over the course of my career, I'm now in my early 40s and I'm a dad, of now 4 young kids. And I think that has really changed me because I'm looking at pop culture through the lens of being a father. But I've just become a lot more conservative, I would say. Like there's things that I don't, even though I'm a critic and I'm supposed to like see all the movies, there's a lot of movies that I just don't watch because I know that it's not going to be edifying to me. That's a long kind of prologue to basically get to the question that you're asking, which is how do we make these decisions? Like what's the grid that we should use as Christians? And I think there's a lot there. But one thing that I have found helpful is thinking about it through the lens of the Great Commandment. If every choice in life ultimately is a choice that can move us forward in loving God and loving neighbor, or move us in the opposite direction,
Yeah.
I find that a helpful grid to evaluate my media choices. Like,
Okay.
if I know that a movie, for whatever reason, is just very secular, hostile to God's truth, undermining God's truth, then watching that movie is not going to move me forward in my love of God and love of His truth.
Yeah.
And if it's like a movie that is it's known to have like explicit nudity and explicit sexuality, I know that that's just not going to move me forward in my love of neighbor, because it's objectifying my neighbor. It's putting them on display in an exposing sort of way. Or if it's a movie that's just full of like violence and anger and profanity, like those are things that I'm skeptical about whether the choice to watch that is going to move the needle in a good direction.
That's a great point.
For my discipleship. So I try to think about it in that way. Like, if it's clear that a piece of pop culture is just not going to move me in the direction of like spiritual formation, healthy spiritual formation, then I just don't bother with it. But there's a lot in the middle, right, that you're not quite sure about. Like, there's a lot in the realm of pop culture where it might, I don't know, like I might watch this show and be surprised by how it helps me love my neighbor, because it puts me in their shoes in a way that I didn't consider before. A lot of art does that, right? It helps us see people in a way that we often are too busy to notice and to see them and to love them. So part of what I hope I do as a curator, as a critic, is help thoughtful Christians who are interested in that, like that category of the arts that's a little bit gray, right? It's not like an explicitly Christian piece of art, but it's not so clearly profane that you're not going to watch it. But there's a lot in between, right? That it seems like fair game for Christians as an exercise of Christian liberty, but you're also not sure if it's wise to watch or not. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I create lists like I do. And it's not an exact science. It's not like an authoritative guide, because some of my recommendations might not be wise for some Christians.
Well, that's one thing I actually love about you and your list, because you'll even put on there like, hey, this has profanity, or this can be kind of crude in some moments. It's not like your top 10 or like VeggieTales season 3 episodes 1 through 10. Like, there's real stuff in there.
Yeah, and I try not to. I feel like most Christians know that like VeggieTales, is going to be okay to watch. So I don't need to like put that on my top 10. Yeah. And I know that most Christians know that like some sort of like
The Chosen or something.
Yeah, like there's certain things that I don't feel like people need my help to know that it's either okay or bad. But there's a lot, as I've been saying, there's a lot in pop culture that Christians just don't know. Like, is this okay? Is this going to be helpful or not? And I try to add a lot of caveats to make sure that people don't only take my word for it. But, these days it's really helpful because there's online resources where you can literally look at the exact kind of breakdown of like, if there's sexuality, if there's nudity in a movie, you can kind of see that. So I caution people to use those resources. Like, if you are very convicted about not wanting to expose yourself out of dealing with lust or other things, then by all means, before you sit down to watch an R-rated movie, be sure you look at the content on IMDB Parents Guide or Plugged In or something like that. Yeah. And just be informed about it. I try to urge readers to do that, even though what I'm actually writing about most of the time is more the substance of the story and the themes.
That's right.
I don't spend a lot of time writing about like, here are all the sex scenes and curse words, because you can easily find that information online. But what I'm trying to draw out of these things, these movies and pop culture artifacts, is what I think can sometimes be a surprising overlap by common grace of secular pieces of art that actually like Christians can celebrate, because there's common grace virtues that are being depicted that are actually helpful, right? That we can appreciate. At the same time, a lot of those movies, even some of the movies on my list, like not everything in those movies is commendable, and sometimes the director has some ideas that are not helpful, but there's also a lot of really helpful stuff, and I'm trying to praise what is praiseworthy and call out what is problematic in any given thing that I write about.
Well, which is, I mean, honestly, one reason why I love your work. I mean, that's living life in this fallen world post Genesis 3, is navigating not just movies and films, it's relationships and worship circumstances. And I remember when I was getting my doctorate out at Biola, my professor, Greg Gansel, would always say, everything the gospel touches, it has something to affirm and something to
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
That's true in what we watch and what we listen to as well. Now, there's pure filth, right? We're not talking, that's kind of self-explanatory.
Right. For sure.
But like for me, my favorite band's the Counting Crows, and I love Adam Duritz because, and by the way, I've seen them live. He is very vulgar, very anti-gospel, just in who he is. But he captures what it feels like to be lost poetically better than most people I've ever listened to. And that helps me pastorally of going like, okay, these are real ways people think about significance and despair and loneliness. Yeah. And sometimes lost people capture that better than Christians that we just hadn't felt that in a while because of the grace of Jesus.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think one of the things that is true of most good art that is like authentic and coming from a sincere place is that most artists are trying to grapple with real existential questions and longings, right? At the core, most like quality artists are trying to answer like questions about the meaning of life and questions about what our souls are hungry for at their root. And so for Christians, I think it makes it a valid thing to engage, right? Because if artists are asking questions about the meaning of life and kind of teasing out the emptiness of life without God, ultimately, part of what I love doing as a Christian, engaging those films, is to be able to say, like, this movie does a good job kind of capturing the pain and the meaninglessness of this aspect of life, but the Christian story and the gospel speaks into that in a way that it can be a conversation partner. So I think there's a lot of fruit that can be born from Christian theological engagement with the arts, because so much of art is actually theological at its core, even if those secular artists wouldn't use that word. They would kind of steer away from thinking of their films as theological, but they are nonetheless theological, because they can't help but ask spiritual questions about transcendence and meaning and purpose and what it means to be human. So many stories right now in pop culture are really wrestling with what it means to be human in all the facets of that, right? What it means to be a gendered human, male or female. We know that Hollywood is very confused about that. Increasingly, like the question of technology and what it means to be human, distinct from machines, is something that you see show up in a lot of sci-fi movies and television shows. The new show Pluribus, I don't know if you've seen that one, but
I've seen an ad for it, but no.
Yeah, but I won't go into that too much, but it's a fascinating show that's looking at kind of AI, I think, and kind of wrestling with what it means to be human in a world where AI increasingly presents this utopian kind of vision of a fully kind of operative, society. Anyway, so yeah, there's spiritual questions that are constantly being asked in pop culture, and so I think for Christians, it's just a missed opportunity if we don't engage those questions on the level of theology.
Okay, so we got 15 more minutes. Let's get to your list, because number one on your list, I actually saw like a trailer of this on Netflix, and it was late one night, and I was like, God, I want to watch that. And then I thought, man, I think Shanna would like it too, so I'm holding off, and I'm still waiting. And then it pops up number one on your list.
Mm-hmm.
But Train Dreams, I saw the trailer or the teaser on it, and I was like, man, this feels like Wendell Berry meets Paul Bunyan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes, that's a good
in the middle of
description, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, you can
Yeah.
take that. You can use that one.
Yeah.
But tell me I mean, I love it's PG-13. I
Mm-hmm.
love cinematically, it seems like it's going to just be really pretty and
Yes, it is.
natural and wrestle
Mm-hmm.
with really significant things. But why did that one make number one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's beautiful, and I think there's something to be said for movies that are just straightforwardly beautiful. And so much of Hollywood's output these days is like ugly and kind of intentionally trying to be transgressive and like kind of rub the audience's face in like filth and ugliness. So to have a movie that just embraces the beauty of the world that, Christians would say the world God created. Train Dreams is a movie that really like captures that beauty really well, and it actually explicitly reflects on the theme of beauty and the question of beauty, especially in the face of suffering. So I don't want to spoil it, but like suffering is a big theme of the movie, and like how do we find meaning after an unthinkable tragedy basically happens. And I think beauty and the way that to paraphrase Gerard Manley Hopkins' line in his poem about the world is charged with the grandeur of God. Like Train Dreams is a movie that captures that. Like, I don't know if the filmmaker has faith, and I know that the novel that it's based off of, Train Dreams, the author was a Christian, but the movie itself is not like explicitly Christian. Okay. But you can kind of sense that the world that it's capturing in all of its beauty and majesty, there's a charge there. There's the presence of God is kind of felt but never spoken of explicitly, if that makes sense. So it's just a really spiritually like substantive film that asks some of those questions that I was just talking about with regard to meaning in life, and it covers the whole span of one man's life, Robert Granier.
Well, and I know that, right, you got to know your own kids and family dynamics, but just as a dad, I mean, PG-13, but family film, not a family film, like watch it with your high schoolers. You got any recommendations?
Yeah,
if they're listening?
Yeah. I think with high schoolers, it would be totally appropriate. I think it's it might be slower moving and a bit more like heady for some high schoolers who are used to like Marvel movies, but it's also not super long, and it's really beautiful to watch. And I think it would be a good movie to discuss, with your high schoolers, like after you watch it, like, what do you think the point of this movie is? Like, what is this movie saying about life and purpose and beauty and suffering? So yeah, I think definitely a fair game movie for kids of the high school age and above.
Yeah. Okay, and the list I'm referencing, for those that may not have read, you just go to Gospel Coalition. You can tap in, search, 2025 movies. Brett's list will pop up. But, of all these things on the top 10 here, which of these, and maybe it is Train Dreams, did you walk away? I kind of think Thomas Chalmers' old sermon about religious affections, and he kind of talks about stirring things that stir our affections and things that steal them. Avoid the things that steal them. Gravitate towards the things that stir them. Let's take the animated David out. I want to talk about that as its own little category. But what on this list, are there a couple that this particularly stirred me towards the Lord for these reasons? from your top 10?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of them were stirring for me in my affections for my neighbor, in terms of like really capturing the experiences and the struggles of people in different broken relationships or vulnerable situations. The number 4 movie on my list is probably one that like no TGC reader would have ever seen, which is kind of why I like it.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. It's a French film called Suleiman's Story, and it's about an immigrant who's from North Africa but lives in Paris, and he's like a DoorDash, Uber Eats delivery guy on a bicycle. And it's just a really intense but beautiful look at like this is the vulnerable existence that like real people have in today's world. It felt very real, and it made me empathize with a type of situation that I'm just very distant from in my comfortable kind of American life. So that's one. Some of my movies are kind of tragedies in the sense that they show how a father can make choices that undermine his role as a father and his calling as a husband and a father, in a way that I think is helpful, that can help viewers recognize. Sometimes I think as Christians, we can actually celebrate when a movie exposes sin for the bad thing that it is, right? Like when it doesn't celebrate. When it shows very starkly how sinful choices can wreck your life and ruin your family. And 2 of my movies, The Mastermind and Roofman, and they're very similar in the sense that both of them are about kind of relatively normal fathers who become criminals, who like choose to become thieves out of like mixed motivations, but obviously it's a bad choice to do that. And those movies show the tragedy of what follows when they make that choice. And yet they also capture, especially Roofman really captures the goodness of the desire to provide for your family and wanting to be a dad that your children can respect, and the shame that can come when you don't do that, and when you go to jail and you're forever separated from your children because of choices that you've made. So so that's a little bit about some of the movies on the list.
Dad of 4, I'm thinking through things. My older boys are always like, do we really have to watch Curious George again? We're which I don't blame them. But, I noticed the last one. So number 10 is PG, Rebuilding. Talk to me about that one.
Yeah, I mean, that one it's similar themes. You're probably detecting a theme of fatherhood because this is my life stage. I'm a father of 4. So a lot of the movies that I personally resonate with are exploring themes of fatherhood and being kind of a man who lives up to the challenges of that and the calling of that. So Rebuilding is about a man who has been divorced from his wife, has a daughter, and he's trying to provide for her, trying to be present with her. He loses his house in a fire in Colorado, and the whole movie is like literally about just rebuilding his life, right? He's lost so much. He could kind of further spiral out of those experiences and kind of choose to kind of give up, but it's a beautiful redemptive story of how he kind of finds purpose again and tries to kind of rebuild. So that movie is very slow, I would say. Okay. So even though it's PG, and
my boys are out on that. They're out on that one.
It would be totally appropriate for your kids to watch. I think it's more of like a grown-up movie because of the pace that it has.
Okay.
So
well, let's go to one not on the top 10, like honorable mention, that is going to move at a totally different pace because I'm
Uh-huh.
in Austin. I'm a sucker for all things McConaughey, and I haven't
Yes.
seen The Lost Bus yet. I saw a little
Yeah.
ad for it pop up on Apple, but true story. I mean,
Yeah.
is this?
Yeah.
I
It
mean, it's
is. Yeah.
wild.
It's
It's
a
a
true.
wild story, right?
Yeah, it's a wild story from the fire that destroyed the town of Paradise, California, which is a town that is near and dear to my heart. I used to have a friend that used to live there, and I went to his house a few times before the fire. So it's a true story, but it's also just a riveting, like white knuckle, like kind of old school movie where you're just on the edge of your seat. But it's really well done. It's rated R for language, so
Okay.
that's the only caveat there. I think if you're okay with a little language, it's probably fine to watch with your high schoolers. But yeah, it does unfortunately have a fair amount of like f bombs and so forth. But yeah, but it's really compelling, and the virtues of sacrificial kind of heroism are really present in that movie in a way that isn't like hitting you over the head with it, but is there nonetheless.
All right. Well, with a little bit of time we have left, talk to me about David, because I think I probably share some common
Mm-hmm.
Christian skepticism of like,
Yeah,
okay, is this going to be
yeah,
like terrible?
right. Totally. That's my default skepticism. Like whenever I sit down to watch like a faith-based Bible movie, I'm always like, oh man, is this going to be like embarrassing? It's going to be painful. And I went into David kind of worrying that that was going to be the case, but it really blew me away. Like the quality on every level is just very impressive. Like the animation, the storytelling, the way that the filmmakers are able to kind of touch on a lot of the like big moments in David's life from the Bible in like a short kind of 2 hour time span. And to kind of develop characters like David and Saul and Jonathan, it actually like was really impressive to me. And it's a musical too, which I also like went into it feeling like, oh, is this going to be super cheesy? Like they're trying to be like a Disney like animated musical, but like the songs are really great and theologically solid. And my kids sing the songs from the movie like in the car. They're always asking, "Daddy, turn on David, turn on the soundtrack." So
cool.
yeah, I think it's a film that Christian families, like Christian parents who appreciate good movies and are a little bit wary of like low quality faith based movies, you can go into David feeling like this is actually going to be enjoyable to watch, because it is. It's quality. I've seen it twice now, and I wouldn't mind seeing it again if my kids wanted to go back to the theater to watch it again.
Okay, well, we're definitely doing that one. This isn't on your list at all, but while we're on David, have you seen, I guess, the David series on Amazon?
Yeah,
You have anything?
House of David.
Yeah, yes. I know that I got plenty of friends that have watched it and have really enjoyed it. I've seen it, hadn't
Yeah,
tuned into it yet. I've also never watched The Chosen, so I'm probably a bad Christian.
yeah.
Uh, but you got
Well,
any
I mean,
insights or thoughts on it?
yeah. It's similar. Like I had skepticism about the House of David series as well, but it also surprised me with how well done it was. And I think the format of a multi-episode, multi-season show, both in House of David and The Chosen, it kind of gives you more narrative breathing room to really develop characters in interesting ways. So um, I think they do a really good job with it. There's some things I could quibble with,
Yeah.
but that's true of anything. But generally, I'm a big fan of House of David, and
Okay.
I wrote about it for TGC.
Yeah, I read your article about it, which is
last
amazing.
year. Yeah,
Well, I mean, Shannon and I watched the first episode of The Chosen and liked it. It's just kind of like, I mean, in life, we don't have time didn't have time to go back.
right. Who has time for another TV show? But I am a big fan of The Chosen as well, so I commend that one too.
Okay. As we're moving into 2026, I know you get to preview things before, a lot of us even hear about them. Anything coming up this year that you're really excited about, as far as films go?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one that's coming up in the next couple months that I'm most excited about is called Project Hail Mary. It's Ryan Gosling. It's based on a book about a math teacher who goes to space on this mission to save the world. But I really love the book, and I think Ryan Gosling is a very likable actor. So I'm excited about that one, and I'll probably write about that one. There's some like theological themes at work in that story. The lead character, Ryan Gosling's character, his last name is Grace, so that tells you a little bit of the story has some theological undertones to it. The third installment of the Dune movie series is coming out later in 2024.
I've never seen one.
Oh, no?
No.
Yeah. Now, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with Dune when it comes to like Christian ideas, because the novels are explicitly critiquing aspects of Christianity and religion, but also drawing from like the messianic tropes and kind of the hero's narrative that echoes the Christian story. So I wrote about Dune Part 2 when that came out, and I think I'm really interested to see where the story goes in the movies with the third installment. There's one more thing I'll mention that is a TV show that I got to preview that's coming out later in January. It's a TV show about a pastor and his family, and it's the first TV show I've ever seen that's like literally about a Protestant pastor in a way that like takes it seriously and doesn't ridicule it.
Yeah.
It's called It's Not Like That is the name of the show. It's Not Like That. And it's a little bit of a romantic drama. He's like a widower. He lost his wife and he has kids.
Okay.
And there's a woman at his church who is divorced. And so the story is kind of like, are they going to be a couple? And I don't love everything about the show, but it's interesting to see a TV show that is taking seriously the drama of being a pastor and all the conflicts that can make for interesting episodic television. So I'm writing about it without mocking it. Yeah, it has a very sincere appreciation for the pastoral role. So I'm writing about that for TGC. So you can look out for that article whenever that comes out.
Hey man, we look forward to it. Thanks again for jumping on with us.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks so much, Jamie.
We thank you for listening to this episode of the Downline podcast. Please subscribe, give us 5 stars, help us to get this content out to as many people as possible as we continue to partner with men and women in the Great Commission as we seek to make disciples as a lifestyle for a lifetime.